Hello, everybody. This is another live stream with Johannes Mathis Conrad, or the Great Johannes, the Great JMK, as I'm known on TikTok. I'm going to talk about the Epstein list mostly, or the disappearance thereof. I've got a whole monologue prepared for that. I will go through that in a minute. But first, I thought I'd start with the fact why I started wearing a suit and tie and a suit jacket. I've been told that this is the white supremacy. Would you believe that? Yeah, it's because this is a European clothing style. You may not recognize it. You may think that it's ubiquitous and that everybody can wear this, but actually, have you seen those Arabs with their turbans, or the Hindus? That's their dress. This is our dress. This is European high society dress. It was invented basically during the Victorian British time, and then later, of course, you had Italian tailors and whatever. Germans added something to it. Everybody did something in Europe to influence this style, but eventually it became the international businessman and politician and banker and financier style, and for the high society. And that makes it kind of the white supremacy thing to wear, isn't it? Yeah. It's a bit strange, though. The reason I bring this up is because there was a black guy on Twitter who said that being civilized is white supremacy. And he was wearing a nice shirt with a tie, and then got me wondering, like, why are you wearing, our dress is not your costume. Isn't that what they always say? Right. And before I start talking about the Epstein list, which is what this episode is going to be about, did you see this news item about the British Post Office? From the year 1999 to 2015, the British Post Office sued almost 1,000 local post office managers for financial discrepancies, for missing cash. Turns out, after about 12 or so, or a dozen or so of them ended up committing suicide, and probably 100 or 200 of them were sued and convicted for this crime of making money disappear into their pockets. Turns out that it was a software problem. In the year 2000, the British Post Office ordered this Horizon software from a Japanese sounding company, Fujitsu. And it turns out the software made mistakes. And people were sued for that. And the reason I bring this up is, welcome to the AI age, because things like this are going to get only worse. Why? Because as more of our machines and systems are going to be taken over by AI, no one's going to believe that AI made a mistake, and they're going to blame you. If there's money missing, you must have done it. Couldn't have been the AI. AI is intelligent and perfect, right? So we're going to see a lot of this, and it's going to get a lot worse. And hi, everybody who's joining. So let's, however, get on with the main topic for today. Wow. So do you know what managed reality is? It's when politicians simply craft, using their media henchmen, a fake reality that they want people to believe in. They just manage their reality so that, well, this is what is true now. Like the official narrative, so to speak. The government narrative is the only one true narrative. And if you believe something else, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're anti-democratic, or you're uneducated, or whatever they call you, right? And so Attorney General Pam Bondi, working for the Trump administration, had said quite recently that she had the Epstein list, the customer list, on her desk. And now all of a sudden, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Never existed. Was never there. We all wonder what the hell is going on here. This is a bit of a problem because Trump ran his campaign to become president on saying that he was going to disclose the Epstein client list. We were going to find out this for several reasons. By the way, the main misconception here is that it's not about the list Epstein made in his Rolodex or something, or in his phone or something. That's not the list we're looking for. We're looking for the list of people who are seen in the videos that Epstein recorded. He recorded over 20,000 videos, or 20,000 hours worth of videos, with all sorts of high-profile people, secretly recorded, of course, interacting with underage girls and boys. We want to know who those people were. Who were the clients? Who were basically the rapists raping those kids? Who were they, right? There's another list, and that's the list of people who were being actively blackmailed because of these videos. Imagine, for example, I'm just calling a name. Bill Gates, Microsoft founder. He was on the Lolita Express, apparently visited Epstein Island. That's why his wife, after all, said she wanted a divorce. They divorced. Okay, so was Bill Gates being manipulated by whom? Which secret services? The domestic secret services? Was the FBI or the CIA involved in Iran? Or was Epstein perhaps a Mossad agent? There's a 2-volume book by Whitney Webb called One Nation Under Blackmail that says that indeed Epstein was a Mossad agent, and that means Israel was blackmailing not just US politicians, but the US technocrats, right? The media people, bankers perhaps, and of course in Europe and wherever in the world they could get them, right? So let's have my little, I'm going to do my little monologue now. I have like a new format for my podcast since yesterday. I'm going to do sort of like a 10-minute or so monologue that I've prepared. Then I will do some more interaction with the audience. We can talk about your comments or whatever. And I'm going to keep it a bit shorter, maybe 30 minutes to 40 minutes instead of 60 minutes. That just helps me keep it more interesting, more entertaining, right? I'm not trying to score points or something. I just want to get my message across. So just over 60 seconds of midnight footage from the cameras looking at Jeffrey Epstein's jail door have gone missing. The footage from the New York City prison was supposed to quell conspiracy theories about what happened to America's most famous child trafficker. But now it has fueled only more wild speculation. Did Epstein, the Jewish math dropout who decided to swap working in finance for supplying underage children to be raped by America's who's who, really commit suicide, or was he murdered? Or was his body swapped by a body double in a sort of Rudolf Hess-style plot? And did he flee to Paraguay or Argentina with a good pension, as so many other Mossad agents have? Now that his co-conspirator and disturbed girl lover Ghislaine Maxwell was put in jail for 20 years, it's a bit of a mystery why all of a sudden there's no Epstein list anymore. But I'm not talking about the list that Jeffrey Epstein supposedly drafted on his phone. We're talking about the list of Epstein's victims and the perpetrators they can still identify. We could, for example, simply ask those girls that pointed out Ghislaine Maxwell as their handler and their rapist, because she was a girl lover. She raped girls too, right? And then not only the ones who went to the infamous Epstein Island and its occult architecture, but also the ones who went to his place at New York City, or the ones aboard of the so-called Lolita Express plane, and anywhere else the rich elites convene. So where's the Maxwell list then? Forget about the Epstein list. Where's the Maxwell list? We know for sure that Britain's Prince Andrew was on the list, since his victim, Virginia Giuffre, pointed him out. Perhaps to shut up other victims who might potentially come forward, Virginia Giuffre appears to have died of suicide after suffering an alleged accident that she promoted on Instagram that no hospital or ambulance worker had any knowledge of, despite her father saying she was making plans for the future the week before she passed away. Weird. Where's the Maxwell list? So Attorney General for the Trump administration, Pam Bondi, a while ago claimed there was a list and that she had it. So where's the list? The list of customers is just one list. We're more interested in the other one, the one listing blackmailable elite men and perhaps several women from the tech industry, from finance and politics, who were blackmailed into working with domestic and foreign secret services because their activities, quote unquote, with underage girls were secretly recorded and so being used against them in order to get them to cooperate. Compromised politicians, for example. We know, as several US media outlets previously reported, about names such as Microsoft founder Bill Gates, who flew on Epstein's plane. What on earth is going on in this managed reality? This brings me to the timing of the FBI's and the Department of Justice's sudden memory loss. You see, President Donald Trump was a big, longtime friend of Jeffrey Epstein's. There's a video taken by NBC News of a younger-looking Trump cracking jokes with Epstein, with Ghislaine Maxwell featuring in the video's background at some kitschy house party at Trump's Mar-a-Lago in Florida. And then there's the world-famous picture of Trump with Epstein and a dancing Melania right in front of them. In fact, Epstein introduced Trump's future wife to him. What sort of a girl was Melania then that she hung out with Epstein? I know the truth about this part, but maybe you know it too, but I guess I better not say anything. I don't want to be assassinated. My point is this: concerning the timing of the disappearing list, it was right after Trump's support for Israel's Netanyahu during the recent 12-day war with Iran, bombing Iran's nuclear infrastructure, and after Trump personally backed his friend, quote-unquote, Netanyahu, to clear him from charges in the trial against the Israeli leader back home, and then followed a dinner with Netanyahu at the White House to celebrate victory just recently, whereupon Benji offered Trump the letter he sent to the Nobel Prize Committee to recommend Trump as a candidate to win a Nobel Prize. It was right during, before, or just after this dinner photo op moment that the FBI and the DOJ came out saying that they no longer have any knowledge of any Epstein blackmail list. And I think that's quite fucking convenient. Of course, allegedly, Trump is the most prominent celebrity featuring that list. But of course, that would be shocking news to no one. Everybody already knew about this for like a decade or so. But to hear that a presiding president, may be being manipulated by a foreign secret service, the Israeli Mossad, that's weird because, Trump is over 80 years old now. Why would a guy that age not simply say, you know what? Yeah, I fucked a couple of bitches with Epstein, so what? And now I'm going to bomb Israel. Why can't he be like that? Why can't he be tough about it? Why does he bend over, basically? Still, I think Republicans in general may be rarely featured in the dealings with Epstein and his girls, Trump being a flamboyant exception. But, former Presidents Clinton, Obama, Biden, perhaps may also have wanted to see this list disappear. The American Uniparty doesn't care to ask any further questions. If you still want to know more, I recommend you the book by Whitney Webb titled One Nation Under Blackmail. And then you may begin to understand why American politicians always say, Israel is our greatest ally. In fact, if you wanted to homeschool yourself and reconstruct the Epstein list with the least amount of effort, all you would need to do is to turf the names of the men and women in politics and media and in tech and finance who have publicly spoken these words, the magic words, Israel is our greatest ally. Write down those names of the people who said that publicly, except for me, of course. Then the list you have in your hands would resemble closely the missing list that the FBI says it can't find anymore. The United States government, along with its entire media system, has been compromised and cannot be expected to make independent decisions in the benefit of its citizens. What about the 20,000 hours of video or 20,000 video files recorded by Epstein and confirmed by the FBI previously? And what about that American officer who saw that footage, who then decided to defect to Russia after seeing the contents of this material? He didn't want to get assassinated. That's why he left. Perhaps the breaking story should be about how many other world leaders are all being controlled. I already gave you the answer. I think it's all of them. At least all the important ones, for sure. No leader in Europe is making any independent decisions, and the EU witch in charge, Ursula von der Leyen, takes her orders from the small hats too, apparently, as she recently equated European values with the values of the Talmud. Most Europeans don't even know what the hell the Talmud is, but apparently we live by its values. Apart from Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel and Isaac Herzog, he's the prime minister or president, I believe, there shouldn't really be any other Jewish presidents or prime ministers in the world. And yet there's Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine. There's Alexander De Croo, the prime minister of Belgium, who's Jewish. There's Javier Milei of Argentina, Jewish. There was Mark Rutte of the Netherlands, my prime minister. He has admitted to having Jewish ancestry. Then there's Keir Starmer of the UK. recently outed himself. He said in a video, I posted it to my Twitter at JohannesMKX, he supports Zionism because he has Jewish family living in Israel and he is raising his children as Jews. What? Isn't that like a conflict of interest? If it were a business, if Britain were a business, that would be a conflict of interest, wouldn't it? Yeah. And then there's Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico. She's Jewish. There was Gabriel Attal, the recent prime minister of France, Jewish. And let's not pretend that France's president Emmanuel Macron isn't Jewish, or pretend that Giorgia Meloni of Italy isn't Jewish. There's Alexander Rosenberg, the Jewish leader of Transnistria. There's Mikhail Mishustin, the Jewish prime minister of Russia. There's Andrei Rozkov of Latvia, who's Jewish. There's Xavier Xavier Bettel, the prime minister of Luxembourg, who's Jewish. I mean, it is so important to either be Jewish, look Jewish, or work for Jews on the political stage that even dictator Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela claimed to be Jewish. And so did Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa of Portugal. And then there's all those hidden noses who just pretend not to be Jewish, but pass as white or Christian, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, Arab, Muslim, Indian, Hindu, or even East Asian nowadays. Some say even the House of Saud, Saudi Arabia, has been handed new noses to get them to look Israel's way. Don't tell me this isn't a problem, because these global schemers want you and me and every other white man to die fighting Russia, Iran, and China. So that makes it my personal damn interest to know who these people commanding my race on the battlefield really are. Already, over 1 million white Christian men have died fighting in eastern Ukraine. And nowadays, most of them, almost 70% of them, die because of drones exploding in their faces. This isn't war. There's no more heroism, no more honor to be found in war. This is a human sacrifice, a holocausto, a burnt offering. I want this human sacrifice to end because we needed those white men and women to help us repopulate the diverse cities of Europe, Western Europe. We could have been fighting Islam and immigration together. We could have driven out all the hate and terror. And now their lives have gone to waste serving the globalist interests of a clique of people who won't even bother to explain their motives. Although that doesn't mean those motives are hard to guess. It's all about total control of the global trade routes, effectively to own the world and its resources. That's it. Our enemy is motivated by greed. We Christians call that a sin. They think that's our weakness. But we, alas, know that men who pursue the material world for its sake shall perish along with it, whereas those souls who toil for the spiritual afterworld shall live on for eternity. Maybe we're just the pawns on their chessboard, or maybe we're just cattle to them. But when you treat people like cattle, you can't seriously act surprised when those seemingly slow and stupid goyim wake up one day and start treating you like the parasite. You know what's coming next. It only took one Arminius to defeat your precious Rome, and likewise it will only take one man to defeat globalism. And we have at least 30 million bright white men worldwide qualified for the job. I find it hard to see white men killing each other in eastern Ukraine, regardless of which side they're on. The propaganda has been effective and the brainwashing complete. As though under a magic spell, men's minds have been shielded from knowing the truth. But there's one secret weapon that not even the most powerful ruler on earth can command. That one day the dead shall return and get their revenge. I predict that the old war father shall rise and lead his armies to victory. Damn, I love doing speeches like that. That's why I started doing this. I can write pretty well. Yes, I'm Catholic. I can write pretty well and I have a lot to say, so why shouldn't I? You can't even spell nerf. All right, I'm going to go over your comments so far. I see a lot of people have been joining and watching. Now I can have it. Oh, sorry. Now we can make it a bit more interactive with you, and I'll talk about other things as things go by. All right, but I won't make it too long. Maybe 30 minutes or so is enough, right? Because I'll be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. my time, Amsterdam time, and also on Thursday. I'm going to try being consistent from now on, doing it 4 times a week, with speeches included, right? Yes, the Reconquista is needed, yeah. Johannes is the goat, though. Yeah. You think he fled? You think I'm watching your old comments. I'm responding to some of your older comments. Yeah, you mean Epstein fled? Yeah, probably. I think Epstein. If I would put 50 euros on it, I would say Epstein is in Argentina or Paraguay now, enjoying the sun. All right. Have a great evening. Yeah. Friend who stopped at the right time. Yeah. All right. They own everything. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Starmer's wife and kids are Jewish, but Starmer also said that his parents were also Jewish, and he's raising his kids as Jewish. Yeah. So he kind of. There's a video where he literally said, "I'm not going to outright say I'm a Zionist, but I do support Zionism because I have family in Israel." Wow. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Here I am again. Yeah, I'm gonna try doing it every day now, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, and then I'm gonna, but not too long. I'm gonna, right, keep it interesting. Yeah. Outstanding. Yes, I'm Catholic, Roman Catholic. I already said that. Blackmail is not necessary because everyone is towing to the Zionist line. Yeah, not really. You do need blackmail for the Goyim, right? For everybody who isn't a Jew, you need blackmailing, right? But even then, within the Jews, they have different factions fighting each other. So you need to understand you also have like the Bolshevik communists, like the George Soros types, open society types, who don't like the Zionists. So yeah, you still need, they blackmail each other too. That's what I'm trying to explain. So, but us as well, right? All right. You are our new leader. I wish. Yeah. Yes, I believe what I'm saying because it's true. The dead shall return, by which I mean the spirits of the ancestors will come back to us, which will give us the strength with our bodies because we're alive, but infused with the spirits of our ancestors, we're going to overthrow globalism. Absolutely. I believe that. Thoughts on Russia? I think Russia wants to just conquer Eastern Europe. Does that mean I want to go along with it? Probably not. But there's a lot about Russian culture that I prefer over what I see in the West. The LGBT stance, for example, or the idea that we are spiritually connected through our religion, that white people, white men should not be mocked in commercials, for example. We should have the right to feel confident and proud of ourselves and proud of our history, and not like Jordan Peterson saying that you had nothing to do with your past. It wasn't you who built the pyramids. No. Jesus Christ, but you can be proud of your ancestors, and that being taken away from us is honestly, that's where I draw the line. Looks maxing, it's not for men, it's for women. Don't do it. It's just a scam from the makeup industry to sell men makeup. We don't need it. Or you'll just end up looking like that clown from the Joker. No, don't do it. Hey, how are you doing? Are there Masonic Jews? Yes, nowadays. Although I think my opinion is that the Masonic lodges and Freemasonry were largely founded to teach the Goyim how to think like them or to be more in line with them. So that's why I think Jews didn't need to be included in Freemasonry at first. But nowadays, I think they are openly leading it anyway. So, I mean, I looked into Freemasonry and then I saw the same leftist, socialist, global homo program that I saw in the political parties on the left. It's like, what the hell is this? This isn't enlightening at all. This isn't going to make me a better person. This is going to make me one of them. Yeah, white people totally forgot about their ancestors. Yeah. 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 Sorry for mocking Peterson's voice, but yeah, it's how he speaks. Right? Do you think it's a problem that there are many 50-year-old nationalists and not many youth? Yeah. I think if you look at Generation Z and so on, I was on a live chat with like 10 other people on TikTok, and I was talking to these 20-year-olds, and they were all very far right and right wing. they say that they lived through it. They are the victims of diversity. They go to school and they're like the 10% minority in their classroom. So they know there's something wrong. They know that their women, the 20-year-old girls, are being harassed and attacked by these rape squads, foreign rape squads, immigrant rape squads, and they know very well that there's a problem. I think the guys around age 20 in the USA at least, they are almost 2/3 of them are considered probably far right by our standards today. All right. White people did build the pyramids though, because they Egyptians were white. Also, genetically speaking, did you know that when they did the research on the Egyptians, they found out that they are mostly related to the modern West European Celtic type people. So white people, you know. I mean, if these black Afrocentrists can say that they built the pyramids, then so can we say that, right? I built the pyramids, yeah. JD Vance loves his eyeliner, yeah. Unbelievable. I think I did speak to Daniel Clark. Wasn't that him? Yeah, I think that was him. I had a chat with him on his show, on his live stream channel. I need to cry more to look like Peterson, yeah. No, I'm not Norwegian. I'm Dutch. You know, there's Dutch people in the south of the Netherlands who are blonde like me, right? Phoenicians were Irish. Maybe they were Celtic. Yeah, who knows? All right. Isn't the Netherlands full of foreigners right now? I'd say there's like, what are the numbers? 13% non-whites and total 26% immigrants, yeah. But this is only if you consider it up to the second or third generation. I once did a data science, data analysis, and I found out that if you take the Dutch population from the year 1950, and then you extrapolate from then, right? How many people living in the Netherlands today are still descendants of those people living here in 1950? And I came to the conclusion that it was barely 12 million. Meaning that in the Netherlands, we now have 12 million, what I call original whites who were here in 1950, and 6 million additions. So, but of course, there were a lot of white Belgians, white French, white British, and white Germans who also migrated to the Netherlands. So we got, and Polish white people, but then there's like 13% non-whites from outside the EU. Then there's another 13% or so immigrants who are also not white, but they came from within the EU, or whatever the exact math was. But you know, why are the Dutch so into farming? It's because of our land. We have this low-lying land by the sea, was extremely fertile for a very long time. So we got really good at farming. And because it's a small country, we also had to intensify. And that's how we got really good at producing meat, for example. We are like the #1 meat exporter, I think, or used to be, selling mostly to the rest of Europe. And we have the best agricultural technology. People from China come to our university, the University of Wageningen, our agricultural rural university, to learn about all these methods. And they then use that in Asia as well nowadays, right? Are South Italians white? Probably not. I found out that Jewish people, like Ashkenazi Jews, are most related to the Southern Italians and partly also to Greek people. So I wouldn't say Southern Italians are white. They're probably a sort of Mediterranean race, mixed a bit. You know, the Mediterranean, because you can sail around so easily, the coastal regions of the Mediterranean will see a lot of mixed race people or mixed people because of the interactions due to the trade routes, right? And that's where the Jews come in. The Jews used to dominate the Mediterranean as a merchant people. Why are Dutch people so tall? It's genetics and cheese. Is the Mafia Jewish in Italy? I'd say so, yeah. In the United States, in Hollywood, they always make these movies about the made men and about the mobsters. They want you to believe those are real Italians, but I think the mob in Italy is largely Jewish as well, right? Are Greeks white? Yeah, Greeks are white, yeah. Lots of them are. And then they show you pictures of migrants from India and from Pakistan and from Iran and say, they're not they don't look like their statues. No, not anymore because of immigration. But yeah, they used to definitely be white. The Greek people looked like their statues, and you can judge for yourself by looking at their statues. Obviously, those people were white people. They were almost like Aryan Nordic types who just settled there in Greece because they thought it was pleasant, you know. We've been roaming all over the place. They found people in some basin in Western China, the Tarim Basin, I believe, what was called. They found mummies there, and when they analyzed their faces, well-preserved faces, they were white people. White people, by the way, who looked just like we do today. It's Northern European types. It's amazing, really, yeah. Do you think you can assimilate those people into the white population? Which ones, like the Mediterranean types or so, the Southern Europeans and so on? I don't know. I think to some extent this has happened anyway, yeah. The Western Turks are also Mediterranean. They look very Greek. But then the inland Turks, the ones who live near Ankara, their capital, ooh, that's a totally different people. They look so different. They look really more like Indians almost, right? Brown, very brown people, very dark. I love your comments, so keep them going, and I can extend the show a little bit. By the way, I will publish this whole episode to my website at jmk.info and also to my YouTube at The Great Johannes for as long as they stay up. And of course, I will post some clips here as well. You look more Central Asian as a Turk, really. You don't look Greek, you mean? Yeah, probably. All right. If you're visiting the Netherlands, I don't know. Go to the forests. The forests are nice. If you like heath landscapes, I love the forests in the Netherlands. I don't really have anything special to recommend in terms of sightseeing. You can go to Amsterdam for a day is enough, I think, and Utrecht for a day, and then go see the forests of the south of the Netherlands, and maybe the beaches of Zandvoort and so on. I don't like Geert Wilders. He's just controlled opposition. I think he's like half Indonesian, half Jewish. I mean, it's a bit of a joke, you know. I got a 3-letter domain name, but I paid for it. Duh, it was like 1,000 euros. This was years ago when I had money. I don't have money anymore, but I used to have money, and then I bought the domain for 1,000 euros. jmk.info, yeah, something like it. All right. Do you think it's a big problem that many Christians are liking Jews? I wish they knew what they were doing, because what are you really supporting? Are you supporting a Jewish Israel, Jewish Jerusalem? You know why I think they say that Jesus Christ was Jewish? Because they don't want right-wingers to be Christian. Okay, let me explain this. If Europe would become right-wing, nationalist, and Christian, what would we do? What would be one of our geopolitical goals? We would take the Middle East. Why? Because of the trade routes and because of the Bible stories, right? We would take Jerusalem, we would take Gaza, we would take all of it and make it Christian. And I think that might be the greatest fear of the people living there now, if those Europeans would turn back into crusaders and take the Middle East. The Germans were there, late 19th century, under von Bismarck even. The Germans were in the Middle East. They were in Palestine. They were in what is now Israel. They were controlling the shit out of it. Even before World War I, the Germans were kind of in charge of Turkey for a while, or at least in terms of the trade with Turkey, right? They were dictating the terms. And why did the Germans do that? Because the Germans understood you need the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, you need the Persian Gulf, you need access to the Mediterranean and access to the Black Sea and then the Caspian Sea. If you have access to this, you have access to the most important trade routes that govern the world. So the Germans were visionaries. Under von Bismarck even, they had already understood everything that the British hadn't even understood yet. And this is amazing because the British were building their own empire, right? But the British came later. What really happened is, the short version is, the British preempted what the Germans were trying to do. The Germans were effectively trying to conquer the world. And they were on their way to succeed doing it. And then the British, they bombed the railroads from Berlin to Baghdad, and they took charge of Egypt for a while, and they took charge of the Middle East. And then it was the British who then put the Jews in Israel. In 1948, they founded the new Zionist state, the state of Israel, that was recognized under pressure from the British. No wonder Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Britain, is Jewish. Of course, they have a connection with Israel because they need it for their now Protestant Jewish alliance. So there's no Judeo-Christianity, but there is a Judeo-Protestantism, right? And so they're worried about what the Catholics are doing, right? Right. Oh, I see a lot of more of your comments, right? Jews from Belgium don't even believe in Zionism yet. They can be Bolshevik, they can be communist, anything, right? That doesn't mean they're all on our side, though. Yeah. Is Turkey going to join the BRICS? Yeah. I think Turkey's best option would be to defect NATO and join Russia and BRICS. And what then will happen is you will see a Turkish army siding with Russia. Basically, it's over. How is Europe going to defend itself? Europe can only spend money that we don't have, but we don't have the military capacity to actually beat Russia and Turkey. If we were in a full frontal war with those armies from the east, we're screwed. No, nobody believes me because in the West we keep telling ourselves we're winning, we're winning. We're trying to manifest victory. We're manifesting victory. We're winning in Ukraine. No, we're not. For the past 3 years, we have not defeated Russia in eastern Ukraine. And now they say there was a report by the Atlantic Council, it's a think tank. They said that Russia is winning today. They're winning the drone war. But the drone war is the war. Most of the war in eastern Ukraine is a drone war nowadays. And if Russia is winning the drone war, that means they're winning the war. They're winning. So that's why I think Putin doesn't want any more peace talks with Trump, for example. They cut loose. And now imagine Turkey joining Russia. And both of them backed by China. And then Iran joining in, backed by China. We're totally fucked in Europe. I don't know what the United States might do. The United States is going to have to wage a war with China and with the Middle East and Russia and so on. It's going to be a bit of a problem because you don't easily win multi-front wars. And the US would be fighting China, Russia, and Iran, and say the Middle East as well. And then that's at least a 3-front war. You're not going to win that, you know. I don't know about Putin. I think he's a special case. Something special. I don't know what he really is. Maybe he is Jewish, huh? But like I said, Jewish people have their own factions. So you can have Zionist Jews, Talmudic Jews. You can have the Zoharian Jews who follow the book of Zohar, written by Moses de Leon. And you can have the Bolshevik Jews, the Communist Jews, and so on. They have their own factions, but they're all after the same thing, which I think is the control of global trade and global resources, basically to own the world. Now, the Zionists want to own the world in their own benefit, and the Bolshevik want to own the world to make the world communist. But whichever way they approach it, how is that all a benefit to us? There's an alternative here. You don't have to be either Zionist or a nationalist or a globalist. There's always a third way, right? Right? How about we just do everything that's best for us, right? I think the Netherlands is awfully liberal and definitely following the lead from foreign powers telling them what to do. Yeah, 70% of casualties in Ukraine is now from drones. Yeah, it's shocking. Eh? Hello, Johannes. I can't pronounce your name, but you have runes. All right. If only white men of Europe would realize that we are already in a war within our nations. We are. We're at war with diversity and with Islam and other exploiters, right? Right. How do we get European armies to rebel against their overlords? Yeah. That's a difficult thing, yeah. Because you wonder, you want to know why haven't Europe's armies already, say, overthrown the governments, these super liberal governments importing rapists and murderers and dependents. Dependents are also bad. We don't need too many poor people. What are we supposed to do with them? If they're not skilled, we can't even use them for slave labor. Basically, what are you doing with them, right? Especially with AI, they say that AI is going to take over jobs and robots are going to take over jobs. Then what do we need all these people for? We don't need them. So what are you doing, right? It's weird. It's just for our replacement, just to get rid of us. But then you are going to end up with a new population of a lower quality, with lower cognitive ability. They're not gonna save us. No, we used to need migrants to pay for our pensions. Now we need pensioners to pay for the migrants. This is not right. It's a joke. Thanks for sending me roses and so on, gifts. Yeah, thank you very much. Everything helps. From time to time, I can go to McDonald's knowing I earned this on TikTok. Your job has gone to AI already. What did you do? Right? I'm Dutch. Right. Right. The world. Well, Jesus Christ. Someone in Dutch asks me a question about I can be polarizing and energetic because who else is? Isn't that the point of being a speaker? You gotta, give people your energy, right? McDonald's thumb down. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I could get steak at the supermarket. Right. I speak German, but I'm not German. Yeah. Oh, McDonald's supports Israel? Oh, yeah. All right. What do you think of the Epstein Files? Okay, you got to watch this episode because at the start of this, I did like a 15-minute monologue about the Epstein Files. You should just replay it. I'm going to post this to my website, jmk.info, and also to my YouTube at The Great Johannes. You can find it there. And maybe I will also post it to my Rumble now. I have a Rumble account now, although I totally forgot. The Rumble name is like The Great Johannes Podcast, but the username, let me try to look it up. What's the username? I think the username is /JohannesMK. Let me check if that's really true. Yeah. Rumble.com/JohannesMK. I will post this video there as well. I'm building up my my Rumble account. It's just a backup to my YouTube because I do suspect at some point I'm going to lose my YouTube account again. And then it would be nice if I had all my videos backed up to Rumble, right? So, so that's why I will do that. All right, that's better. Yeah. How old are you? Like, have you always lived? I lived in the Netherlands until I was 25 years old. And after that, I spent a lot of time traveling and I lived in Germany, in Hungary, in Sweden, UK, a little bit, USA, two summers. I've traveled a lot and I've lived in different countries and traveled around a lot. And that was very helpful for me to see at first, for example, how do other people see my country? So that was very useful to, broaden. They always say that right-wingers are closed, but I'm not. I'm extremely open to new experiences and I'm super far right. And it helps me to truly understand what is everybody really talking about? What are those leftists really talking about? What do they mean, right? And so I thought that was very helpful, yeah. The background is not from Call of Duty. Wait, this is a painting from late 19th century, European painter. I can look it up for you, but anyway. So Call of Duty stole this. Okay, didn't know about that. Here, I have my picture folder. And then, hold on, webcam backgrounds. Let's see if I can find it. I don't know. Oh, wait, Christian something. Führer? No, not this one. Oh, here it is. Christopher Wilhelm Eckersberg, 1816. A view through three arches of the third story of the Colosseum. You're looking at the Colosseum. This is the Colosseum in Rome by the German painter Christian Eckersdorf, right? I'm going to wrap it up in a few minutes because I've been speaking for 45 minutes and I don't want to make it an hour anymore. I'm going to do streams from 30 to 45 minutes or so. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, 8 p.m. I'm going to be more consistent in that. 4 nights a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Actually, I was watching some show by Nick Fuentes and I thought it was a little bit immature, but that's because he's a bit younger. He's like 26 years old or so. I don't quite know where to place him yet. I'm very careful with these things because almost everybody's controlled opposition except me, of course. I wonder what Nick Fuentes is after. He's like a Catholic. He wants to have a sort of theocracy in the USA. Okay, not too bad, but then who's funding you? because his speeches are incredibly well written. So I think he's more, at least he has a team writing his speeches, right? So I write my own speeches. So I don't know if Rumble is the place to be, by the way. It's just my backup for YouTube. In case I'm losing my YouTube, then I'll be there. I read a lot of books by Julius Evola, right? Right. Yes, Dries van Langenhoven was convicted, right? To like a year in prison or so for something he didn't do. Yeah, that's a dangerous precedent because he was just in a chat group where they posted swastikas, but then you can imagine any leftist liberal journalist can join your chat groups and post swastikas, and then you go to jail for it. That's a very dangerous precedent. Very weird. Someone says that Romans used to view Germanics as barbarians, but the Germanics used to view Romans as faggots because they were wearing battle dress, whereas the Germans were wearing pants, 2-sleeve pants. So, all right. Photographic memory doesn't really help writing speeches. I think you still need to have a verbal gift as well. So, all right. I'm going to wrap this one up. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, 8 p.m. my time, Amsterdam time, for another show about another topic. This one was about the Epstein Files. You can watch the replay in an hour or so. It will be on jmk.info and on @thegreatjohannes and on Rumble/JohannesMK. And then you can watch it there. Right. All right. Kurt Kaz is awesome. Yeah. I watched some of his videos. Very great. Although he fools around with a lot of brown women, that's not something to promote. But anyway, I get the point. I get why he does it. But all right. Have a nice evening, by the way, and see you later.